Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey friends, if this is your first time listening to Win with Dice podcast, it's a podcast all about tabletop RPGs, running them, playing them. Calvin and I like to take a casual approach to GMing, and we just talk about our games, playing in different games and different systems and stuff like that. So, maybe you feel like jumping on the other side of the screen is for you.
Yeah. Try to demystify hopping onto the other side of the GM screen for people who might not have tried it. And we have managed to put out 100 episodes of just that.
Yeah. That's crazy. That number is too high. But I guess it'll be higher because we're going to do another episode after this in the future. And I don't know where this is going to end, but thanks for sticking around for 100 episodes. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been great to have like this community of people who've been, listening to and enjoying the episodes, and it's been really nice that there's people out there who are enjoying all the things we do on this channel. Like outside the podcast, like the gaming streams, the character building stuff, the actual play streams. It's just really nice that these things we enjoy making, people out there enjoy listening to and watching. So, This being our super special 100th episode special. Gosh, I wish I had come up with a title for it beforehand. But this being what it is, we wanted to reach out to the community and get some questions and answer those. And we got a whole bunch. I put out a YouTube video where people could just leave a comment of what they wanted to perhaps hear. We don't have access to community posts on YouTube yet, but we will in another 150 or so subscribers, which is a thing that we're capable of doing. So that's going to be fun. So we got a whole bunch of stuff we can respond to and reply to. But before we get to that, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Yes, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by Calvin, not me this time.
Indeed. So this is just something that sort of came up as I was working on some stuff more recently, just looking into certain, skills that kind of go underused. And I just had this realization, like, especially the crafting skill, just because it was something that I was thinking about recently, because we did have some questions regarding that. It's a very underutilized skill, at least in the campaigns that I've run. It doesn't come up super often. Maybe it came up like once for earning an income. And I think maybe in our Pathfinders of Inion game, it came up a bit, but only like one specific person was using it.
Yeah. Definitely underutilized skill.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, if you are, as a GM, if you're aware that there's some aspect of a player character that's going underused, it doesn't have to be, like, because it really depends on the system, it doesn't have to be a skill, it could just be something that the character is capable of doing, but it doesn't come up a lot, like a certain, like, trigger or something in Lancer, or a certain skill in another game, or anything like that. You can leave the door open for situations where that might become useful. It does have to be sometimes highly specific situations, and it's entirely possible that they might not, like, pick up on the hints you're leaving, which is a thing that can happen at any time. But you can't, if possible, this isn't like a guaranteed definite you have to do this thing, but at the end of the day, the person, when they made their character, they put, like, resources into those skills, those attributes, those abilities, whatever they are. So to never get a chance to use them, it would largely be a waste. And they do sometimes, like, the player will have to meet you at least halfway to find a way to use those skills. Maybe for, like, skill challenges and things like that, where you're specifically saying to players, can I get a skill check in whatever you think might be applicable to this situation? And if they can think of a way to use that obscure skill, that's great, even better. But, yeah. If you can leave the door open for them to find a way to use that, you can at least just give them that little nudge so those skills don't feel like a waste of resources.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it happens a little bit more in, I would say, like, more strict, like, gaming rules or like D&D or Pathfinder, they have a lot of heavy restrictions, like when can you use certain skill roles or certain abilities or whatever, right? But in more looser systems like Lancer, it's kind of just like, if your trigger applies, apply it. If not, you can always try to roll, right? And I think that's kind of like the point, right? You gotta let your players be the character that they designed to be, right? Make them make that crafting roll in the middle of combat or something. Be like, oh yeah, I want to tie this rope. All right, make a crafting check. Oh, you made the best rope ever. It's a whole rope bridge. Good job.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I guess because other games are more strict about like what you can do while trained and things like that. Narrative Lancer's a bit more narrative in that way, but if they say if you like with tying a rope, like I might default to like a dexterity check or whatever, a sleight of hand, depending on the system. But if they say, hey, can I use this other skill for it? And they're able to say that in a way that's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that, but that's a really interesting idea, then I'd let them give it a shot.
All right. Sounds good. There you go, folks. There's your tip of the week. Brought to you by Calvin.
Yay.
Yay.
It feels weird giving a tip. I feel like I'm interrupting your tradition.
But every week it feels good to take a break, a little vacation.
Well, and I hope you've enjoyed your mini vacation, because we've got a lot more stuff to answer to. So we put out a tweet and a video, just looking to see what people are interested in hearing us talk about. We got a bunch of responses to it. So I just sorted them out alphabetically by person, because we got like a whole bunch of stuff. I didn't know what was the best order to put it in, because it's on different like topics and systems and things like that. So I just alphabetized it. But I'm excited to hop into this. I don't really know what else to say to introduce this concept. Ramon, is there anything else you want to say, or should we just get into this list here?
Let's answer those questions.
Okay. First up, off YouTube, from Alexander Thomas, assistant developer over at Green Onin, and also I forget what his official title is. Executive producer at USB? I don't know. Alex, if you're listening, you can leave a comment below. As well as GM over there. And he asks the very deep and meaningful question: how do you guys fit so much talent into two people?
That's funny. I definitely don't have any talents.
I mean, that's not true at all.
I'm an empty vessel, so I guess I could fit everything. You're right. If you divide by 0, really, that's kind of like infinity, right? So I'm basically Thanos. I'm basically with the full gauntlet. Let me snap some magic. All right. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate the comments.
Yeah, I'm glad that means a lot coming from you, because I know how like intensely busy you are with everything you do. I'm pretty sure Alex doesn't sleep like at all.
He's just sitting there planning and producing and doing whatever 24/7.
Yeah, and editing and writing, and I have at no point heard of Alex going to sleep. I don't think it happens. Somehow always awake. But I don't know, I mean, like, especially when it comes to gaming stuff, I just kind of bounce off what I get from players, and then fun things happen. It's like it's throwing a ball back and forth, and goes back and forth really, really fast. It's not like it's just one person who's good at throwing that ball.
Definitely being open to your players' influence and other people's influence, even just like other content creators, other people in your life. Friendship is cool, and it's nice to have a community where we're able to share and learn and laugh and all that kind of cheesy shit together. It works.
Yeah, obviously.
It works. So yeah, thanks. All right.
Yeah. Okay, a quick gushy just to get the ball rolling. Next up, from Mitchell McPherson, who has been has left like a lot of comments on the channel, which we always really appreciate, because they always lead to like really interesting discussion.
Yes, seriously, Mitchell's. Every time Mitchell talks about his games, I'm like, what? That sounds awesome. Yeah. Why wasn't I there?
Yeah, I always want to know more.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mitchell's first question here is in regards to crafting in Pathfinder. Um, it's weird and kind of broken. Did you encounter any problems or any fixes that you can apply to it? Um,
Yeah, it is. You're totally right. It is kind of weird and kind of broken. I think crafting in Pathfinder has always been kind of weird and kind of broken because it was weird and kind of broken in D&D. Like, so oh no, I haven't encountered problems where whatever my player creates outpaces what the I guess the story and what I'm trying to throw at them, because I often arm my players with just personalized weapon nukes, right? So I never run into that problem because it doesn't matter if you're able to convert your, I guess, time and energy and half the amount of money into getting like this good item, because honestly I would have just given it to you in the first place, right? So it's weird. It's weird because like I never really use the crafting rules in the way that the rules are intended to be used, right? Because like that's the thing. It's like the drawback of giving the player the ability to make whatever item they want is like, well, and it's like half the price. It means that like the everything that's laid out in the book in terms of like the level of the encounter, or like how hard the bad guys are from the developers, are like based upon one, your character level and the abilities, as well as like your level of gear, right? So one starts outpacing the other, then all of a sudden you're in like this skewed situation where like maybe the math is like tipped too much into your player's favor, right? And then it could make, or specifically that one player who chose to do the crafting, right? Because then now you're walking up with this jacked dude, and then all your squishy friends who didn't choose to like spend their time crafting, all of a sudden their AC is like,
sorry, I was gonna say, like, you're still limited. Like the items you can make, they can't be like a higher level. Like the item level can't be higher than your level. So there's still some limitations there.
Yeah, but still, it's like but like you're never ever gonna have a character has the highest level attainable amount of gear. But if someone is actively trying to achieve that, then like the rules themselves are built for like somebody who has maybe one piece of first level or fifth level gear, and like a couple of other like third level gear, maybe a couple of 0 level gear, right? It's like a hodgepodge of different effectiveness, right, in terms of like the things that they get. But if someone is jacked out with all 5th level gear, it's like it could be tough. Because to be fair, in Path of Inion, Corey's character Rook, he used crafting, because we talked about it up top and during the tip of the week, right? He actually used crafting, and he has has top of the line gear for his level, both armor and a weapon, right? While everybody else has more of a mixture. And I would say in terms of combat effectiveness, it's I need to smash Rook and then everybody else, right? Yeah. So the things I'm throwing at them, it's like it has to be challenging enough for this fighter, but also not so challenging that it immediately destroys everybody, which is difficult.
Yeah.
But I think that you could fix the rules by kind of ignoring them or if you really want to, give everybody a chance to craft their own gear and say like up front, crafting is a part of my game, and I'm expecting you to do some crafting, like during character creation, during zero, during the pitch, just like instill it to them, being like, listen, you care about your gear, as like the character actually cares about the gear. This is the type of story I want to do. Let's do it together. You know what I mean? Like if everyone's jacked, then it's no problem.
That's fair. Because like the thing is it still costs like resources to do. Like you still have to. And I mean because I was just looking at the crafting rules recently, because I know I barely use them myself personally. Again, like I might have just used it like once for like earning an income, and a bit for like requiring some downtime because the player wanted to like get a specific thing from a shop. so they needed time to
Yeah.
craft it. But like you still have to pay like the item cost essentially. I mean, like it works for our Pathfinder as a mini-on game because we have that extended downtime built into the concept of the game, so you can meet that, like, because the way the crafting works is that like in game you need 4 days of downtime, and then you make your crafting check, and then depending on that crafting check you can either like spend another few days to reduce the cost, or just like pay the rest of the cost after you've paid half up front when you started to get the materials and everything. And then, like, you know, the item has to fall within a certain level cap, depending on how like trained you are in that skill. But essentially, like, you still have to spend. It's essentially like getting the item at cost, but taking longer, basically.
Yeah.
Which is fine for us because we have that downtime built in, so you basically have enough time to do pretty much whatever, but you still have to spend that time and that resources, so that's downtime that Rook as a character is spending like not doing something else that the rest of us might be doing or dealing with.
I understand, but again, it's like one translates directly into my character is better at, you know, half, like the majority of the game,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
While the others, like you were talking to NPCs, you were finding out more information, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff is essential for the story, but you know, like combat in, well, specifically in Ineon, because it's my game, but like the majority of the rules in Pathfinder is about smashing monsters. So if one character is focused on smashing monsters, it could skew the party a little bit, right? But like I guess that's just half the fun, right? Like, so yeah, if you're worried about like your players having too much downtime because, you know, or too much opportunity to craft and things are getting out of hand, you just reduce the amount of downtime. Or you find that, like, you know, the crafting rules don't really make any sense. I have to think that the crafting rules are a little bit too strict. It's weird because I have this thing where it's like, if you let your players craft everything, they will be too jacked. But I think the crafting rules in Pathfinder is too complicated, so I just loosen it up anyway. Because, like, you know, it has to do with, like, you know, raw materials and like getting, like, once you start getting into like magical stuff, it's like, I would honestly, if someone wants to make, like, I don't know, like a flying carpet, right? It's like you gotta get some very specific shit to make a flying carpet, right? It shouldn't just be like spend X amount of money. It should be like you need to find the finest silk in the land and a genie or some shit like that, right?
Yeah, I think it's like, I think it leaves that space open for that. Like, it doesn't say, because it just says raw materials of X cost. They probably assume, I mean, like, because they kind of do put a lot of more stuff onto the GM in this game. They probably kind of assume that, like, the GM will narrate, here is what raw material means for this item, because they don't specify, like if you're making, I don't know, like a shield or whatever, they don't specify that you need to go to a forge, but they leave it open to be like, yeah, they probably assume, like, yeah, the GM will say you need a forge to make a metal shield.
Yeah, that's true. As well as, like, you could, yeah, exactly, right? Those requirements of, like, you have to actually get the metal, and then you have to find a place where you can forge the metal too, right? It's like having access to, like, the place to make the things, or like you need like a lab to do
like
the
alchemy
chemistry
stuff,
shit,
yeah.
alchemy stuff, right? So yeah,
which
there
is,
you go.
I think, different and also the same from crafting.
Yeah, exactly right.
I didn't look too much into alchemy, admittedly, which I probably should for my character in Rebecca's game. I don't know. I just recently looked at the crafting stuff, and I was trying to just like wrap my head around it because I didn't really use it as much, and I can see how it's effective in use here. I do, especially like the concept of like how much time you spend on it reduces the cost. I think that's interesting. But yeah, I can see how it can get a bit, like, especially having been in that game, I can see how it could get a bit busted if you just have one person doing all the crafting. But again, that depends on what else is going on in your game, because other people might be doing narrative stuff that might become important and things like that.
That's true. And to be fair, like, fighters are just kind of strong in Pathfinder.
Oh, yeah.
Which is hilarious compared to like 3.5, where like, fighter, whatever, your dinky sword, I'm a wizard, like, die.
Speaking from
like,
GM experience, fighters are too strong.
Fighters are too strong. Yeah, man. If you ever want a real fighter, like what it likes to be like the hero in all those games, like, play Pathfinder, man. Fighters are too strong. They're just like, put bodies in grounds. All right, let's go to the next.
So I guess
question
you can be flexible with the rules in crafting if necessary, but I think they have a good base to start with. You just got to put like a lot of narrative into it.
Yeah, break it down from specific materials and specific places that you need to go to do the thing, and then the time and effort and all that stuff. That can like make things a little bit easier or harder, or you have more levers to pull to adjust crafting in your game that way.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being like a dollar value.
Especially, I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but especially if you're playing a game where, because we talked about this a bit before, like certain items aren't going to be available everywhere. If you're playing a game like that, then I can see like there's definitely use to having crafting as a thing, because your players can craft the item they want, because it might be too high level for the town they're in.
Yeah, or just like you could just also toss out the rules, like in the pirate campaign, where I'm just like an NPC will an NPC will definitely make this material, but I spun this whole adventure off of, okay, you want another one of these? It's gonna take a lot of effort to do.
Yeah, you could also just like make up a thing if it's a big important narrative item as well.
Dang, man, our advice is so good today. All right. To the next one. It's continuing off of Mitchell's questions here.
Yes.
Okay, space combat / navigation in Starfinder. From what I understand, it's impossible to control large ships. I hear they fixed it, but what are your thoughts? I'm gonna leave this to you, Calvin, because you're the Starfinder guy.
Apparently. So I was a smidge confused as to what was meant here by impossible to control. So from the GM perspective, when it comes to large scale ships, when you get into like those over level 10 bad boys, over tier 10, I should say, actually, those large ships with like dozens of crew who are running around and doing everything. So if my understanding of this is in terms of like actual navigation on the map, yeah, those ones might be a bit more difficult because of how maneuverability works in the game. Essentially, ship combat takes place on a hex grid, where you move, you have to rotate because the direction you're facing is key and important in ship combat, because that determines what weapons you can use, what shields might get hit, things like that. And the larger ships, due to being larger, they're a bit less maneuverable. So if you want to turn, for some smaller ones, you might be able to like move one space and then you can turn. Like every time you want to turn, you have to maybe move forward one space and then you can turn a bit. Like you can turn, it's in a hex, so I think it's like 60 degrees you can turn to like the different edge of the hex, essentially.
You can like redirect your forward momentum every so often. Like smaller ships can just do it whenever they want.
Yeah.
Bigger ships, you need to have like a bank. You need to bank the turn.
Yeah, because, essentially. Like some small ones can turn in the same space they're in. Some can move one and then turn to space. The larger ships, you get to like the point where you have to move like 3 or 4 and then you can turn, which can be a bit unwieldy depending on the size of your actual map. As for when it comes to a player in that situation, most of the ships where that's a pain, I feel like those are too large for like player crews. So I was trying to figure out like what the specific situation that was being described here.
Well, if there's two, right? There's like, is it like we're kind of like trying to parse this question, but it's like, is it impossible control, as in like the mechanics of rolling the dice and like choosing who does what and where, like the actual doing of the combat, or is it like directing it like on the grid control? Because I don't think it's like that hard to control it, because it does have that kind of lead time to turn, but like specifically like your big ass ship with a bunch of guns, like one of them's gonna shoot somebody, right? Like you have guns coming out the wazoo. I think that was like the other interpretation. Like, do you just mean like as a group of players it's hard to control a larger ship like that? Because at the same time, like I feel that's not a very likely scenario unless that's been specifically set up with your GM, that you're not just playing your one character but like several, because the way the larger ships work,
The mechanics are largely the same. There's individual roles on the ship that people can take on, and then they will make their roles at different steps or different stages within Starship combat. It's just that each skill thing represents like a bunch of people as opposed to a singular person. When it comes to things like the shooting and science stuff, the engineering, things like that.
Is that new? Is that?
No, that was largely the case from before. I know that they have made some changes to, well, not changes to the mechanics specifically, but like changes into ways you can use starships. The Starship Operations Manual adds new concepts and things like that. Like, say if you wanted to have a game where everybody has their own individual starship, you can do something like that. If you want to play a game where you're controlling an armada, they have additional rules for that. So that might be something that can, I guess, answer what is being asked here. I just wasn't sure if you meant like control as in the literal control or control as in like the dice rolling.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I'm assuming that all the roles that you would typically have as one person as like a player character, it would be like a group of people. Because the way that some of the larger ships are described, it's like crewed by like hundreds of people, right? So it's like you don't technically have hundreds of dice to roll. It's like the crew, like the science crew gets to go into the science pit and do science things, right? Like
Yeah.
Or like in their cubicles or whatever. And there's like the actual like helm where like the captain is with the pilot and like all this other stuff is happening, right? But it's like instead of it being like a one person, it represents like the crew. I mean, if you're a player that is somehow in control of like a giant ship, like your party has control of a giant ship, you could just be like the team leaders of that crew, right? I'm assuming. I've never actually read
Pretty
those,
much.
but,
I mean, like when you have those larger ships, the stat blocks come with that sort of information, like the crew skill overall. Like a stat block for like a step, like there's one I'm looking at right now just because I had the book open. Like there's this tier 9 ship, and they have 4 gunners on it, but they give a gunnery skill of plus 15. So like when they're rolling gunnery checks, they just use that plus 15. But they do have 4 people available to do gunnery stuff, depending on which guns are available. Because like the way it works is like you as an individual gunner, you can't just like hop between different guns unless you have like a specific skill thing that might have been added that I don't know off the top of my head. But it's like we have 4 people to assign to however many guns we have, but when they roll their check, they use this plus 15. Or we have 4 engineers or 2 pilots to do whatever. Yeah. But when they roll their check, they use this number.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess they fixed it. It doesn't sound too hard to keep track of, although I think as like, you know, one person, the GM, trying to manage something that's usually managed by a bunch of people, it does get a little overwhelming, especially if now you're having multiple ships. But now that, like, you know, there's more rules for different types of play where like multiple ships are involved or modders are involved, I think there's some rules out there that can help you out in doing that.
Yeah. Personally, I haven't looked at the like running an armada rules too much. I looked at the individual like squadron rules a bit just because that sounded fun. But most of the ship combat that I've done has largely involved like one player ship versus one enemy. And it's I usually kind of balance it in such a way that the enemy will have like a bit more, maybe like a bit more armor or be a bit slower, but be a bit denser. And the players usually have the advantage in maneuverability.
Oh man, like you should do a Starfinder game where it's just Top Gun in space. Like, that would be so good. Like,
okay, it looks like I gotta reread this chapter on Squadron Combat.
Just a one shot where like we're a bunch of hot shot pilots and we're going on a suicide mission, and it's like, you guys are crazy, don't worry. And we all have like squadron pilot names,
like call signs.
Call signs. I'm like, oh yeah, call signs. The pilot name, yeah, the call signs. Nice. All right,
don't tempt me, Frodo, but yes.
Yeah. Bank that for the future. We should do that, and that would be a fun way to like maybe jump back into Starfinder on the channel. That would be kind of a cool one shot to do. That'd be kind of dope. I'm into it. I'm gonna bully you till you do it, Calvin.
All right. Well, add it to the list. But hopefully that
Goose.
hopefully that helped a bit. If you want to specify more what you meant by that question, because maybe I just wasn't very clear on what you meant, then be sure to you drop a comment below and we'll try to respond to it.
Yeah. One more from Mitchell here.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, another item creation one. So item creation is fun in D&D/Pathfinder. Ever try it in Lancer? I did, and it got busted real fast. But it was the last mission of my campaign, so it was okay? Question mark. I don't know if it was. You tell me. Would love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, I've had some item creation in Lancer. Very, very limited though. Mostly it would be like for a mission, right? It's like I would tell my players like what the mission is about, and then it would be like whatever you want to do to prepare for it, you can totally go ahead, right? And some players like, okay, I'm gonna specifically, I think it was the heist. I guess you could call it a heist. We dragged up Barbosa through an entire facility, so I don't think it was very sneaky.
Well, not a stealthy heist, but a heist nonetheless.
That's true. So yeah, it was against the I think I called them the Blue Horizons.
Yes.
Definitely. I was imagining them being like kind of like the Blue Suns from Mass Effect, and I was like, oh yes, color plus thing. That'll totally work, right?
Oh no, where was Archangel? We could have used his help.
He's on a secret covert mission, man. But yeah, so one of our players, Joel, he decided that he wanted to he was gonna take his I think it was like an Omni hook, and then he's like, okay, I want to soup up my Omni hook so we're able to like download. They're like breaking in to download some information off of their their black box servers, right? That it's like in its own Blink space vault. So like even the paracausal magic of Lancer wasn't able to like hack into it, right? So they had to physically go there and like physically plug the USB drive in and just download it. So he was like I want to do it, I want to get it so like I can like download the information faster. And then that was a little bit of crafting on like the pilot level. As far as like crafting on like the what's it called, the mech level, I think that there's like that's where you get like the exotic equipment, where you're able to just grab stuff from I guess like other licenses and just have like instead of it being like a printed thing, it's like literally like physically there. At least that's how I interpret it, as like, yeah, you have a chain axe from the Blackbeard. You have one physical chain axe like in your warehouse right now that you can equip your mech, but once it's broken, right? That's how I think of it, anyway. Or it could just be like a one-time printing, like a credit or something like that.
Like if it breaks under normal circumstances, you mean? Like with
yeah, like if you like you roll on the structure chart, yeah, and it's like destroy a weapon mount, and you choose the chainsaw is no more, or if your mech explodes or something like that. Okay. Although I think like if your mech explodes, you can still, if you reassemble the mech, all of your equipment is still there. It's just, it's Lancer. You just pick and choose like what's happening to your mech. But yeah, I would say that if you're crafting your your like mech weapons or mech systems, I would say keep it with like a limit. Like put the limited tag on it, right? Because if you're doing it, you're not a crafter. You're not like you're not like these things go through lots of development, right? Like when you get like a Blackbeard, like the frame or like the license or whatever, right? That those pieces of equipment and the frame and all that stuff has been, even in the description, it's like tried and true, tested, like this will work. We've done this like millions of times. This is a proven product. If your pilots are half-cocked, slapping together like nuclear warheads and like putting it on a sword or something, it's like that thing might fall apart. You don't know. Space stuff isn't gonna work all the time, right? So I would say put a limited tag on it. So like if things get too crazy, at least there's like a chance they can run out. So it's like it's not going to be a problem for long, right? Yeah, just let the limited tag on stuff. And as far as like pilot gear, I would say like because the majority of those things they're really loosely defined. They really kind of come down to like player ingenuity to utilize during like narrative scenarios. Like let's say like again like in Joel's instance where he was gonna soup up his Omnihook, then he just had the ability to like download things faster. So in any situation where like he had to hack something and there was a time limit, I would say because of the faster computer processing, then that disadvantage of like I want to do this in a specific time is negated because like he has accuracy on it because of like how fast it is. Or even if there isn't a time frame, he would get accuracy on it because how powerful his thing is. Because like that's kind of what Lancer comes down to on the narrative sense. It's like how hard is it to accomplish and where are my accuracies and difficulties, right? So usually if you want to craft an item, it's like it's gonna fall between one of those things in a very specific niche way, at least in my opinion. I think that like there's so much, again, the Lancer community is crazy good, and there's so much third party created content that's just like overflowing with all this cool things that you can pull from. So maybe if their player wants to create something, it might already exist, so just go search those PDFs.
Yeah.
Right. It's probably there. And or if there's something super similar so you can base this off of, right? Like
yeah, and again, you can just like if you see something that applies for what you want to use but it just seems a bit powerful for the player level, just again put that limitation on it. You only have a certain amount of uses of it, or like it breaks easily, or it's hard to repair, or there's some other cost for it, things like that.
Yeah. Or just, like tweet out to the Lancer homebrew community, go to pilot.net, be like, yo, is this too strong? And then somebody will tell you, like, most definitely. Like
yeah, I mean there's plenty of places you can go, especially Discord as well. You can go to the Lancer Discord, you can go to Shaka's Discord. And I'm sure if you ask questions there, you ask politely and you're not a jerk.
You're not a jerk. Who's going out there barging into Discords being like, hey, motherfuckers.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, Calvin, you read this next one.
Okay, up next is Onyx from YouTube, who asks, are there any rules you follow when giving equipment to your players in Lancer, like exotic equipment or systems from other mechs? Which I guess we sort of brushed on, but this seems maybe less about like homebrew stuff and more just like things from alternate licenses.
Yeah. So again, it's like I think it was the rules are in Wallflower Part 1, that kind of campaign book. Yeah, I don't particularly follow any rules, but I usually like to have the players like roll for it randomly, because I think that like it's funny if like you give a player something that's unexpected and they have to like they can choose to use it or not in a scenario. I like the idea of like the Lancers it's like between every mission, at the start of the mission they get the sit rep of like what they have to accomplish, and it's up to them to be prepared, right? I love them like figuring out like, oh shit, maybe I do need to take this like I don't know, this Harrison laser rifle. I forget what it's called. It might just be called laser rifle or whatever, right? Because I need to have like that kind of thing, or like, oh, I do have access to this, this random frame that I got. Maybe I'll use it for this fight because I need something a little bit more chunky, or like I need something smaller, or like, oh man, I found this Terashima blade off of this thing, and it's the coolest sword ever, so I want to channel the power of anime. Like,
yeah, I think for our stream, like, it might have been the Blue Horizon guys. I think he specifically said that they use a lot of armor, like when we were getting our mission brief. So us as players, we were like, okay, we should like have at least one armor-piercing weapon on us to use there.
Yeah, I think everybody had a lot of AP, but it was funny because everyone bought like energy weapons, but they also were resistant to energy because, my players didn't roll that well on like, figuring out what the enemy's forces were like. So it was cool because my players thought ahead, but then jokes they didn't get the full picture. But it was still effective on those enemies that like weren't resistant to energy. But yeah, no, it's I think that there really isn't a restriction. Although I would say that NHPs specifically, because to me NHPs are a little bit more than just like a piece of equipment. They're like actually an NPC, right? Because they have like thoughts and feelings, and like they can even have a voice, right? So it's like, and typically like NHPs are like almost like coveted. Like if you have an NHP, it's like serious business, right? Because they're like crazy math gods in the box. So it's like you're walking around with this crazy math god. It should be a little bit hard to get those stuff, but like again, the tried and true GMS like chain axe, right? Like that thing. It's just a axe that is also a chainsaw. You could have a million of those just lying around in a warehouse somewhere, right? But you can't just have several copies of like this NHP, because even those things like in universe, they're serialized and tracked rigorously by Union, right? And it's like when you need to cycle those NHPs, it's like you have to do it or else things are going to get really weird really fast, right? So yeah, that'll also like help bring in like the narrative into like your Lancer game, where it's like the equipment that you choose to take on your missions also kind of bleeds into like the lore and your story and that kind of stuff too. And also you can even think about like how hard things are hard to get. Like I forget what the big mech with all the missiles is called, but in lore that SSC mech is super duper valuable. And also the Terashima blade. The Terashima blades are handcrafted by a very specific forge master, right? And it has like all of the the Terashima literally records all of the combat data for that like the person who receives it, right? So it's like the history of the soul of that warrior. And it's like you don't get a Terashima blade like in the mechanics of the game. You just get a level and you choose, license level 3 of the Atlas. But in game and lore, it's like the forge master has to physically send it to you in space. Like he deemed that you are worthy enough for his time and energy and effort to forge you your own Terashima blade, to send it through by courier, mind you, through the vastness of space to find you, to present you with this blade. Like it's like a serious thing, right? This man, there's only a specific amount of Terashima blades ever allowed to come out of that forge, right? So same with a lot of the SSC mechs are like this. The same with the SSC mechs, right? It's like these things are premium products. So if someone just has like a frame or an extra Terashima blade like lying around, that's like money, like actual money. Like I would say it's worth like a starship or something. Like, so if you just have like exotic equipment lying around, I'd say you can use it to any other resource that you might have, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would examine like if someone wants something exotic from a different frame or something they don't necessarily have access to, like you would make sure to consider like the narrative for that item as well.
Yeah. Well, because like there isn't really a tracking of currency in Lancer, because it just assumes that a lot of the stuff is post scarcity. A lot of the Lancers have connections with very large organizations. They're already like the top brass of they're like the top ace pilots of whatever organization that they're working for. And if the Lancers are doing something, it is of utmost importance and super dire, right? So whatever funding that they want, they're gonna get, right? So it's like that's why it's like we don't really care about money so much, because you can print stuff, like the ease of use of printing and like the accessibility and the scale of what's happening and how important your character is very prominent, right? You're not just some dude with a sword walking through the countryside. You are this Lancer and you're kind of famous, right? right? So you kind of just get what you need. But I think the idea of having access to, like, I don't know, having like a Baylor like frame, or like a piece of equipment from it, because it's like like Horus, right? Where, like, the idea of these Horus mechs is that they just come out randomly. Like, you actually get access to these things. You can't actually purchase Horus mechs. They're just downloaded to you, and it's also kind of like a weird mystery of like how you get it, right? A lot of times pilots would just press the print button on, like, a GMS mech or something like that, or whatever frame, and they'll, like, Horus, or like the entity of Horus or whatever, right? It's like, oh, you actually printed a Baylor, jokes, like, this is yours now. And it's hard. it's like mysterious how the pilots get it, and not every organization even allows it, right? Like, Horus mechs are like, that's weird, you shouldn't have that here, that's bad juju. Like, right, there's like a little weirdness about it too, so you could bring that in. And, like, even with getting the exotic equipment, because for instance, in our Lancer stream, your character is a streamer, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and I asked you, like, who do you want to, like, do you want to, like, represent North Star, right? And it's like, you can use that to be like, okay, you could slap the North Star logo, you can stream, we'll give you your pick of North Star equipment because you are representing our corporation, right? As, like, you know what I mean, kind of like a NASCAR racer, where it's like, you slap the Wonder Bread on it, right? Like, you get sponsored, right? Maybe your pilots are sponsored because you're a celebrity. Like, if you're using their stuff, their people will see that and be like, wow, that guy kicks ass, I want to kick ass, I'm gonna choose to go with this product, right? Yeah, things are a little cynical.
I think it's super cool.
yeah. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it, I guess. I think it's awesome. I think the idea of just having access to literally anything, and you could piece together some, Frankenstein mech to do something very specific, or like, just like, oh yeah, here, let me get the spare tactical nuke and slap it on, right, from the back of the shed. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully that, partially explains, like, the concepts of, like, just, getting exotic equipment from other mechs. And again, like, you could just limit it in certain ways if it feels too powerful, like how we discussed before with the item creation. I think that was a very fun ramble on stuff in Lancer.
Lots of item questions today. It's good.
All right, let's get to our next YouTube comment question. Oh no, actually, this one's from Twitter. And this is from Rebecca, who famously runs the super cool high school game from Cadfael Adventuring Academy, that we've talked about on here a couple of times. And she wanted us to talk about the D&D movie trailer, and also, if we had to make a movie based on an RPG, how would we approach it? So, Ramon, I sent you a link to it, and I know Joel also sent you a link to it, so I'm pretty sure you've seen the D&D movie trailer.
It was like the funniest moment. Like, both of you guys sent it to me at the same time on two different platforms. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, like, after I sent it to you, I went and I was looking at Twitter, and I was like, wait, oh. Yeah, I thought it was fun. I was a little worried about what this movie was going to be, because I was like, how are you going to make this movie, and what sort of movie are you going to make? But seeing it's like this Guardians of the Galaxy but fantasy sort of thing, seeing the creatures, like, there's an owlbear in the trailer, there's a gelatinous cube in the trailer, there's a mimic in the trailer that looks like freaking amazing. So I'm very excited to see more of that. So like, the kind of vibe I was getting from it actually is sort of similar to what I got from the Legend of Vox Machina show, the Critical Role show, basically, and how it was basically an animated version of just the campaign, and I think that's kind of what this is here, like, the little quips, the fun creatures, the battle scenes and everything. It feels like just an expanded version of what could be imagined between a party of players. Like if you all put your heads together and your imagination was, I don't know, linked together and it became reality. That's sort of what this might look like, but only with all the cool bits.
Yeah, with only the cool bits, not the flub rolls.
Yes.
Of like, but yeah, I thought it looked like, okay, so like low-key, I was like not so mesmerized from the movie. I saw
That's
the trailer
fair.
and I was like, okay, I guess this is cool. Because like it's always like, it's funny because like, we're on the tabletop, we're trying to make the game like a movie, right, with all these different scenes and describing and the action, all that stuff, right? The choreography, it's all like, yes, this experience is you are in the action movie. The action adventure movie is you, right? And then now to see like the tabletop being translated into an action adventure movie, I was like, we just came full circle. We did it. Like, this was always what it was meant to be. No, it was cool. I liked. To me, it felt like at least from the first trailer, it just kind of feels like it's gonna be like I'm not gonna say generic, but it's definitely tried and true tested action adventure film.
Oh no,
right?
yeah, it's definitely like it's got some MCU blood in it. Like it's got that sort of MCU quippy humor. Oh, that's definitely like it's not like breaking any new ground on that like aspect.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. I'm not expecting this movie to be, like so good that I want to watch it a million times over. But I'm expected to have a lot of fun with this movie, and like. I think that like it's fun to see the iconic creatures that we've been using, for the past like a decade, I guess now, to just see that stuff represented like in like the gloriousness of CGI. And like I think one of the first things I noticed that was like 100% like, because I was like, oh, it's the D&D movie, and I was like, I can't tell if this is D&D or not. It was when the dragon flew over and it was like a black dragon and then it spewed acid, and I was like, oh, cool. It's actually a black dragon. Nice. Like, I think that was like the pivotal moment where I'm like, oh, this is D&D now. Like, this is like classic D&D. And I think the dragon actually looked like the 3.5 representation of what a black dragon looks like. The very couple seconds it was on the screen, I think it was very faithful. And like, it feels like they drew a lot of the actual visuals from those old drawings, right? And I love that. I mean, those old drawings, but it's like those original drawings where it's like, this is what a black dragon looks like. This is in the book. They just made it 3D and animated and all that stuff. So like, I appreciate them pulling from that kind of inspiration. As far as like, like I'm a sucker also for getting the team together. Right?
Oh yeah,
like,
good getting the team together story.
Like to be fair, like all D&D, like actual Dungeons and Dragons, when it was originally created, is just a heist. It's a very complicated heist, right? Where you have to assemble a team of very specific individuals to go break into an ancient tomb where people did not want you to go and steal something. You're not archaeologists, you're just thieves.
Yeah, there's traps, there's people in your way, and you have something that you want to get.
Yeah, right. And it's usually money. You want that cash, man. So, original Dungeons and Dragons definitely is just like fantasy heist movie. And this is specifically like, after watching the trailer, I was like, this is just a heist movie with D&D like, sprinkled on top, which I'm all for, by the way. Like, I'm down with that. But yeah, I don't know. How would you make a movie based on like another RPG, right? Because like I feel like just it's weird because like the idea of like making a movie on RPG is like you make a good movie, but you also put the things that you like from the RPG in it, like all the iconic stuff. Like, man, if I would basically make Gundam but with Lancer. Like, I would keep everything the same, except instead of they're piloting Gundams, like they're piloting like black bears and gorgons and shit. Like, that would be dope. Like, give me more laser beams too. Like, it's gonna be awesome. Like,
I mean, I feel like you'd have to put like Lancer plot as well, but
yeah, right. Or it'd be like Evangelion, but instead of it being just like the Evas, it's like an NHP is like busting out, like, it's like Ra is like, haha, fools, I finally reached my final form.
Someone press the Sekhmet on button.
Yeah, the Sekhmet on button.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be one of those things where I come away like wanting to go play. That was kind of this is a bit off topic, but that was kind of how I felt with the Solo Star Wars movie, is because I came away from it wanting to go play Starfinder, and I think that's why I kind of liked that movie a bit more than other people did.
Yeah, I think the Solo movie is such a weird movie. I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was a good movie.
It's for me, it's because it came out in the middle of like the Starfinder game that we were running, so I was thinking of our characters, like the characters from that game.
Yeah.
Like the halfling you were playing, and the Vesk that Deanna was playing, and I was just thinking of like Solo and Chewbacca. So
Yeah, definitely.
if I can get the same thing here.
Yeah, can I? That's the thing, right? It's like we're always trying to represent the stories that we've watched, which, you know, in the 21st century, it's like, or stories we've experienced in the 21st century, it's like usually through movies, right? Mm-hmm. That's where we get our, or like TV shows, where we get our big ideas. Like even like, because it's Rebecca's question, even like the idea of Cadfell Academy is pulling from all of the Disney Channel, like set in school, like live action shows, right? With all of like, or like, even though it's kind of like those high school, like set in high school kind of in America TV shows, right, where it's like, you know, there's like the jocks and like the nerds and like the classes and the dances and the you know,
and everything feels so important because it's all happening for the first time.
Exactly, right? Like that kind of feeling where like the direness of like, oh my god, I need a boyfriend or something, right? It's like, you know, oh god, that guy's so hot, he plays volleyball, he took his shirt off, wow, like, you know, that kind of nonsense is all based off stuff we watch. So if someone's like, okay, but then we're gonna take this table, that's why we put it in the tabletop, and then we're gonna take the stuff from the tabletop and put it on TV again, it's like we just came full circle. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think I'm gonna enjoy this movie, but like, how would we make a RPG movie?
It'd be a lot of flim flam.
Include all the flim flam.
Like, it would be most of it. It would be, I would say it would be a mixture of like weird esoteric nonsense and a lot of flim flam where characters kind of stand around and crack jokes, and a lot of meet cutes. That's probably would be the ultimate form if both of us made an RPG movie together, and possibly with robots and mechs, and also Dungeons and Dragons, and also stars and finders, somewhere like in that. There, and maybe a little bit of Munes and some masterminds.
Yeah, I definitely would have done, like, what I thought the movie was going to do was it was going to be about people literally playing a game, and then they'd have like the in-game story stuff and then the out-of-game, like, people around the table. But I think this might actually be a bit more entertaining, so you don't have to have the weight of the other stuff going on. So that's at least what I would have done.
Right. And then like someone's mom's gonna get cancer, and then it's gonna be like, oh man.
Yeah, the other stuff would have to be like a super serious story.
Yeah, it wouldn't be cool, man.
It wouldn't be as cool as just a person turning into an owlbear, even though the rules say that's not something they're allowed to do.
Yeah. I hope there's more cool shit. I hope there's like Big B's giant hand and like someone just shoots off magic missiles and shit. I hope there's lots of fireballs. Need more fireballs, man.
There's a sorcerer.
There's like the iconic D&D spell is fireball, and like I just think it's the best. It's like the funniest thing. As soon as you get that level 3 spell slot, like, yeah, man, just triple fireballs rolling deep, blah blah, like.
I do also, like, just one last thought. I do think they're setting this up to be like a not necessarily MCU style, but just like a D&D movie universe, the way it's titled. Yeah. Like, I can see them making another movie that's like Dungeons and Dragons : something else happens.
Yeah, it's like Vecna's back again, Electric Boogaloo 12. Like, yeah, they're probably gonna milk it if it does well, but that's fine, I guess.
Like,
I guess maybe we'll get
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say like maybe they'll turn like the cool, all the cool adventure. I'm gonna call them adventure paths, but like all those cool ones, like all the lore from the Sword Coast, all those different stuff. Maybe we'll get a star. I think it's called Starjammers.
Ooh, yeah.
Where it's like you're flying through space on like
Yeah.
your magic boat, right? Maybe they'll do that eventually. That would be crazy because that's like basically Treasure Planet, and I'm pretty sure like they could just make Treasure Planet again, but with Starjammers. Like, let's do that.
Yeah, actually, I
cool.
kind of want that.
Yeah, because then she gets weird up there, man. Like, I'm down.
Yeah, they definitely have on their hands the potential for a franchise where you can cycle actors as much as you want. So, hopefully, they go into space.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we got a few questions from our good pal Shaka, who recently has started a new Lancer show. The first episode went up recently of Plymouth Rock. I'll put a link to the trailer below. I'll put a link to the trailer into the first episode below, so you can go check those out. I was listening to it. Sounds like a lot of fun, a lot of good setup, and I'm excited to see what those characters get up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love the just like it was a really good first part. So yeah, if you folks are, after you guys are listening to this, go check that stuff out because it's really good, and I got really hyped from the first part of that. Definitely gonna steal all of it because it was so good. So
Yes.
But
let's get into answering Shaka's questions. The first one was from Twitter, was just, we want Lancer map design. I don't know how quickly we can do that, especially for me, who has already made a bad Lancer map.
Okay, well, that was like the funniest thing too, because like when you put it up, I instantly saw it. I was like, oh yes, I see your mistakes, because Calvin did not count the squares.
Nope.
He just put it to stuff randomly,
Yep.
and he was like, oh, that's good enough. And then proceed to put everybody on two separate sides,
Yep.
like it's like sports.
Yeah.
And then proceed to put the slowest guy literally the furthest away.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how helpful I can be with that, because 1/3 of the maps I've made have been bad. I think I will allow myself to believe the second one was really good. The third one's okay. But the second one was really good because I had a tighter concept to work around.
Not to throw shade, but yes, you're correct. The second one was pretty baller, and the third one was all right. Like I get it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Definitely the thing I learned with Lancer map design is scale and the overestimating of such. Because again, like I look at these things and like, oh, these are big old mechs. They need a big old space. But I need to also compensate for the actual speed of the mech and the actual number of cells, and like how long will it take the average mech to get from one side of the map to the other. And I think that's maybe a thing I need to keep in mind. Like, it shouldn't take more than a certain number of turns to get from, like, if someone's just pure walking for their turns, then it shouldn't take more than a certain number to get from one side to the other. For the first one I made, it would take like 6 to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And like, here's the thing too, right? I mean, one, Shaka, you're crazy. Your maps are awesome. Like, why do you want to listen to us?
Also that.
Yeah, screw you, man. But like, actually, like, you have to kind of consider the mission of like what your players are trying to do on the map, because like your map design wasn't bad, because I think relatively everyone could have made it within by like turn 3 to get to like the action. I think that's, except for like Duke, who can make it because he's basically piloting an F1 like fighter jet with legs. Like if you can also feel free to position your NPCs like throughout the map, right?
Yeah.
Like you can design it so like there's a bunch of choke off points, right? There's line of sight blocking terrain. Like maybe all the mechs can't fly, so you put a big chunky rock facing or something like that there, or like some difficult terrain, or like even like just a big black pit where it's like, don't fall, like GG, like right. to make it harder for your players to navigate through that. And then you can start clustering your enemies. So it's like your as like the players move up, like maybe within like the first move, like you can generalize that like your melee characters can go and get into range and like get a strike off, or like your range characters are like can move up a little bit, or like maybe even the long range characters can like at least hit some enemies. But then, you know, if you stagger them out, then like when one team is or when your team is engaging like the first wave of bad guys, the second wave of bad guys like in the back can help and assist them, right?
Yes.
So now you get an incoming fire that way, and then you have artillery in the back. Like generally, like I think that like if you're setting up like a map, you should think about multiple entries of enemies and like different types of enemies, right? Because that's why if you follow like the way that they're set up, like controllers should probably be in the middle. Your frontline strikers should literally be up front, like as close to feasibly as in the mid range as possible, right? Your artillery should be within their range. Like either it's like the artillery is within range to help the strikers when against like, you know, their when your strikers go to meet them head on, like in the middle, or they're up a little bit so they can engage the the player's back row. All this stuff is like from playing like Warhammers. it's like that kind of like tabletop battle knowledge. I'm like, oh yeah, this is how you do it. But also it's like you throw the objectives across them. Even like an objective of like, oh yeah, murder all the dudes could be interesting if it's like, oh, murder all the dudes before, you know, they push you off a ledge, or like more dudes show up in the back, or like get to the other side of the map, like, or like murder all the dudes, but specifically these dudes are standing on these turrets and these turrets will destroy you, right? An example of that would be like it was like the moon base during our first mission in the Lancer stream, where you guys were trying to get to this communication space, and then it was like, oh yeah, they have these turrets, and if you kill the dudes next to the turrets, and the turrets won't fire.
Right.
And then afterwards, I had to give you guys the option to like operate the turrets if you wanted to, but depends how much you destroyed, right? That kind of deal. So yeah, I mean,
there's like if you think of the challenges, like if you think of the challenge, like who is supposed to be on the map and what the scenario for the map is, then I think that can also largely inform the design of the map.
Yeah. You could have like, as well as like, give your players the agency to destroy shit on the map. Like if they just want to destroy like a wall or something like that with their abilities, I think that's like the coolest part, is when you're starting to like clear out the map. Like when we did the maze, right, for the second mission, it was the maze had like I think an easy straightforward path, but it had a bunch of locked doors that you could blast through, right, to get to the shorter path. Or you can take the winding path where there's more enemies, but the winding path had these long stretches of hallway where, like, you know, a pyro is sitting at the end of it. It's like, okay, come on, like, you can't dodge this. Like, I'm gonna get you, right? There's no way to avoid it. So, like, giving players the options of, like, how you want to deal with, like, traversing the map can really, like, make things interesting. As well as, like, think about it, like, as in, like, even for the enemies, like, if you're thinking about, like, a fortified position, it's like give them the cover, make it so the terrain is in their favor, like make it so the players have to go uphill, or like, you know, things like that, right? Give them like shields, give them something like, okay, you have to, like, if they're in this area, they have a shield generator, they can't be hit, so the melee strikers have to go in and either drag them out or smash the generator. That kind of like intricacies where the players are now interacting with the map itself could open up like a lot of fun possibilities and make things a little bit more complicated, especially if, like, you know, players are a little bit used to Lancer, but like they just kind of know how to deal with stuff. Yeah. Throwing the stuff elements inside of like the map itself also kind of makes the game. And I guess that's like a tip for like, or for any RPG system. It's like if you make the terrain also a part of the challenge, it's makes the game like even that much more flavorful.
Yeah. And I would also, I mean, I'm sure other people listening to this probably have good ideas as well, but I would say also, like, looking at video game map design and how they structure encounters and things like that, depending on like the sort of thing you want to have. Like, there's obviously a difference between like an RPG level and like, I don't know, like a Call of Duty level that's a bit more linear. But if you've played through something that might have a certain flavor of challenge that you want to apply, then you can look at that and see, well, how can I use this and how can I make this work in this game system for these enemies?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's some
Definitely.
Halo levels that could probably maybe work for this sort
Halo
of thing.
levels, Destiny, anything that any like first person shooter mats, because they have to, specifically for Lancer, it translates very well because like they have to think about like lanes and line of sight and like cover and stuff like that. So a lot of my I guess experience of like what would kind of work would be like I'm thinking about a Destiny map in my head right now about like how there's 3 lanes, one's a little bit lower, one's like, and you put the objectives like within those lanes. So, and it's like, it's funny because like I can imagine it from the top down view where it's like the objectives are strewn across diagonally across the map. There's 3 objectives, but there's also 3 different lanes to get there, and they all have various levels of stuff. Like one side has a drop off cliff where if you fall you're dead. Another one has a very tight hallway where it's just like a straight shot through a pipe, and the other one's like inside of like a building. I forget what the Destiny map is, but it's like all sorts of hecticness. And even like from the perspective of like, you know, the I guess the orange side and the blue side, their perspectives of the map are very different. Like one side is very easily defendable in my opinion, from the outside of those buildings, but you know, the other side of the map is very defendable from inside those buildings, right? So even that kind of like dynamicness inside of it, you can take that into consideration of making your Lancer maps.
Yes.
As well as just be wary of like mech speeds. I mean, everyone is choosing different mechs, but if you're, you know, having a team full of slowpokes, like it's not very fun for them to, you know, spend a couple turns like walking across the map. You could just start the players wherever on the map, by the way. You never have to do like the thing where 2 teams like start off at the edge of the map. You could have everybody like kind of just jam packed in the middle and be like, lol, figure it out, and just have the violence start immediately, right? So feel free to do that. I think it's cool, especially if you have like, you know, some narrative thing beforehand where it's like you're trying to enter an enemy base, or you're trying to like rocket down like entry javelins and you're smashing down into the enemy base, and like maybe you have to like, you got hit from like anti-air guns, and it's like, oh, you're veering off, so now maybe like your artillery dude has to be placed in the middle of the map because he got knocked off of where he's supposed to land. So now it's like this guy has to be in the middle and everybody else to start, or like everyone's scattered or something like that. So it's like you can have those things happen, yeah. There you go. I don't know. That was good rambling. Shaka, I hope I answered your question. This is the math design.
Good rambles today. All right. Shaka also left us several comments, or well, one comment with several questions on.
They're mostly demands.
They do start off that way. When you gonna let me run a game for y'all again?
You tell me, man.
I mean, you're certainly less busy now, and I'm less sick now, so.
Yeah. So anytime, I guess. We should stream this one though. The next one though, it'd be pretty fun.
Oh, for sure. I do want to work on a new stream setup, especially for Foundry. So, well, I mean, I don't know if we stream it. It's probably going to be on Shaka's end, actually. At least the visual stuff. So we'll see how that would go, but that would be a fun thing to stream on whichever channel.
For sure. And whenever, I guess we'll shoot. I'll DM you, man.
When is the Duke clone line going to get their own arc?
Maybe soon. Actually, I actually had a Duke die the other day. It was Duke number 6. Duke number 6 didn't make it out from the prequel of another Duke's origin story.
Oh no.
So, yeah. It was okay. I mean, he went out in the classic Duke fashion, jockeying a mech and trying to save his friends.
Classic Duke.
Classic Duke going out like a champion. But yeah, it was okay. I wasn't even that bittersweet. I was just like mad because we almost made it. Like it was like if a couple of rolls on like the other players worked out like on their turns, that Duke might have survived. Like it was a very slim chance, but they just had to roll a little bit higher, and then they missed a couple shots, and in the end, like the round after Duke died officially, we were able to like finish the encounter. So it's like so close, right? Duke could have been Duke number 6 could have been a legend, but we did end off that capstone of that Duke number 6's death to being like in like a tank somewhere. Another Duke emerges, right? So the saga of Dukes will continue. Yeah,
Duke bursts out of
just
a tank.
Just you wait till Duke shows up in the Win with Dice stream.
Oh, NPC Duke.
Yeah, NPC Duke. I'm thinking about NPC Duke a lot. Like I want to make up some crazy shit for that guy.
Oh my gosh, believe in a Duke that believes in you.
Yeah, exactly. Right, you best know who's coming to drill those enemies, drill those PCs, those bad guys. But yeah, no, yeah, definitely soon you'll probably encounter a Duke, maybe more than one Duke. Maybe it's the Council of Dukes might show up.
I want it.
Yeah. I have to read a little bit more about. I had to dive a little bit deeper into the Trade Barony source book and. Dig deep and figure out if like what is Duke. Is there just like a house just primarily made of clones of Duke Prime? Like that's just how it works. It's like every person there is just Duke. But we'll see. It may be something cool like that.
I've been trying to think of a word for council that also starts with D, but I can't think of one.
Yeah, I gotta open up the thesaurus and figure that out.
I don't know, Duke Troop.
The Duke Troop is the Council of Dukes.
Yeah, I guess that's cooler. All right, fine.
Yeah. Oh, the Lancer game. Okay,
so yeah, when are y'all? Oh, you can.
We're all just. When are y'all going to get y'all Lancer game running again? I'm hoping September.
Yes.
That's the date I've decided to tell everybody. Like, yes, September. It gives me like a month window to figure out when in September, but definitely want to get the game stream running back up. So yeah, and they're heading off to a planet to go do some stuff. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it. There's a bunch of branching paths that I figured out a couple months ago, and hopefully that still makes sense to me now. But yeah, I want to see what you guys do, because there's a lot of things going on in that place, and hopefully it gets weird like the way I like it. So, and also like I recently watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it gave me like a bunch of ideas, and I'm like, damn, you guys are going to some weird shit. So
I gotta watch that. I've heard so many good things about it, and I think I would be super into it personally.
It is a very good movie. It is probably my favorite movie currently, after like Thor Love and Thunder and Ragnarok, those two, and Guardians 2.
Ooh.
And 1. Okay, after all those, like, it's in there. It is the first Marvel movie and first MCU movie, non-MCU movie that I've liked in a long time. So yeah.
Okay, well, I gotta wait till it's on streaming or something maybe.
Yeah, definitely watch it.
Okay, and lastly, are y'all ever going to review content for Lancer or other systems? Because Lancer has a lot, and I'd love to hear your takes on Stolen Crown or something. This is honestly a really good idea, because I was just thinking about this, and I bought like there's a lot of books that I bought just to like have or just to read. Like recently I picked up some stuff for Mutants and Masterminds. There's one particular book, Threat Report, which has like a bunch of NPC bad guys in it, and I thought I had that book for the longest time. I surprisingly didn't, but I also picked up, like, they put out a new Starhaven book, which is their like new space setting, and I have a bunch of other books from there. I got a bunch of Pathfinder books because I kept getting like the B series and everything. I got like every Starfinder book that came out for a while. I think I'm only like 1 or 2 behind at this point, and like I would get like a lot of these things I can get resources for online, especially the Paizo stuff. But I hadn't really thought of like reviewing them, and I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, it'd be fun to do reviews. I think it's just the amount of time it would take to like the thing is, it's like I think formulating an opinion on just reading it is like maybe not the best. I would have to try and use it in some way, which I think is kind of tough, because then it's like, we're running all this homebrew games, and like we like to talk on the channel where I just like to make stuff up, but for me to like import that content and see what's usable, we could figure it out. But I would feel more comfortable talking about the games that are the systems and stuff that I've actually used from those pieces of content versus like just kind of blind reading and giving my opinion on it. But definitely we can do that. I mean, I would love to review Lancer stuff. I think that like everyone's stuff is so good all the time, and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
Because all my stuff is not that good. And
no, I mean, we definitely like, because when we interviewed all the people for all of our Lancer things, like those tended to be, except for maybe like a couple, like those tended to be like shorter things. So it was easier to like read over them and then actually have like an opinion on what was in them and like all the mechs and story and setting and everything that was in them. Obviously that, yeah, for like a larger book, that might be a bit more difficult, but at the same time, like part of me wants to do that, especially going back to some of the Starfinder stuff, just because I've been listening to the Halo soundtrack recently, and that always makes me nostalgic for Starfinder, so I sometimes look at old Starfinder stuff. And especially looking at the Starship Operations Manual again, in preparation for this episode, like, I think it would be fun to look at that and talk about it and say how I feel about it. It would be better, again, like you were saying, it would be better to actually, like, play through a thing. And also, pulling back the curtain here a bit, I think it would be great SEO to talk about a recently released book for any system. But that's a whole other, that's just professional podcasting stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I definitely would want to do that. Maybe we'll put it into the rotation of like, if something new does come out, we'll check it out and do a review of it. And yeah, hopefully you hear from us. We'll make that happen. Yeah,
I think that's something we want to try to look into. Whatever book we can make it work with. It would probably have to be something recent, so I don't know if we'll necessarily get the play experience. But that would be a fun thing to put into the cycle of topics for episodes.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Okay. The last set of questions. This is going to be a super long episode, but it's our 100th episode, so I feel like it should be.
I took a little bit too much liberty about talking about Lancer shit again, so
yeah, I was like, no, it's okay, it's the 100th episode.
All right, Tim, the best Tim I know.
That's Tim. Hey, I would say the same thing. Of the short list of Tims that I've met, this is certainly the best one.
Yeah, definitely. You're too good to the name Tim. All the other Tims out there suck. I'm joking.
I'm not. So Tim, who also famously has run a Lost Mine of Phandelver campaign for us, converted to Pathfinder 2, and is preparing the next leg of that campaign, which I'm very excited to get to. I know he's running it in Foundry, so I'm really excited to get to that because I love Foundry.
Oh, nice.
But Tim has a few questions for us, and I think they'll be what closes out this episode. So let's get to the first one, which is very similar to Alex's question. How did you both get so awesome, and can you teach me how to be in 6 easy steps?
Tim, first of all, you're already awesome, so
yes.
Jokes, you did it. Good job, man.
Yeah, Tim does a lot of awesome Lego stuff as well. He had this whole Batman and Constantine thing, and there's the Bionicle thing, and then there was the Lego Batman thing, and then Tim does a bunch of awesome stuff. And he got me into a band that I was really into for a while, and then there was some controversy and stuff with them. Don't worry about it, not his fault, but like, he got me into a certain genre of music that I might not have tried out before. So he's already awesome.
Yeah, he also made Calvin into a JoJo stand.
Oh my god, I tweet JoJo stuff like exclusively.
So, Tim's pretty good.
I was looking back at my own profile and I was like, wow. don't know.
Yeah, there's like a part where Tim's influence happened, and then immediately you're like, this is the day where Tim got me into JoJo's.
There's like nothing else. I mean, to be fair, JoJo is a banger all the time, but
This is true. All right. Well, no, Tim, we can't do that.
yeah, you already know
Easy
how.
steps. Yeah, you're already doing it. So,
Can't teach what you already know.
Yeah.
Tim's second question: when are we getting the next high school RPG recap? That depends on the next time Rebecca runs the game. I know she's working on it, preparing it. We gotta put our characters to level 2, so I'm still trying to decide what I want to do for level 2. I think Artheon might want a pet. I didn't really want one before, but I kind of like the idea of having like a little, I don't know, like an owl buddy or something like that. So
Little hoot friend.
yeah.
Yeah. Whenever Rebecca's ready, I think the idea was to use our RPG time as a group, because it's awesome that we're able to play with so many GMs, but the problem is everyone's running their own game at the same time. So then it's like, oh, we're all available. Which game are we gonna play? Because we're all trying to move our stories along a little bit. So I think the idea is to close out on Pirate Campaign, at least the next leg, and then Rebecca will take over and GM a couple sessions worth of her game and kind of do it in chunks that way.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I don't know. I do really want to get to that game. I don't know what my next level character is going to be, but I'm very excited for whatever we do next in that game. So
yeah, definitely, Tim. Definitely, just bully Rebecca. It's fine. You'll just get her to do it.
That's how most things get done.
That's how things get. That's how things get done. You just bully them, and then they're like, okay, fine.
Yeah, but we'll do that like as soon as we can. I'm very excited to see what Rebecca has like prepared.
I so desperately want to go to prom, like, man. And then there's like the summer break. Oh my gosh! And me and Bones have to work in the diner. Like, come on, like.
Yeah, like with this game, I really like being low level. Actually, I mean, it makes sense for the character, but like also it's just really fun.
Yeah, it feels fun to be kind of derpy. Like,
this is probably the most fun I've had like under level 4.
Yeah, definitely. And I can see why you wanna hear about it too.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll get to that like super soon. I don't know. Well, I don't want to say super soon, but like as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Tim's third question: is there anything you're really looking forward to being able to play for the first time, like a particular system, or a particular genre, such universe, or a particular game? I mean, I still want to play Masks. I should probably go out and look for a group at some point. I've been wanting to run the Sentinels RPG. I just haven't found the time to like learn it and get a group together, because like when I think about that, then I think about like other stuff I also want to already run that I'm already either doing or playing. I just haven't like put it into my actually do this schedule. But because I've been thinking about the game a lot more because of the certain Kickstarters that are going on. I've been wanting to get into that, and like also like Icon and stuff like that, or Icon and Icons, the superhero RPG by Steve Kenson.
True, man. Yeah, definitely Icon. I wanna get into a game of that. I haven't run the game. I've only played in it, like I think it was the last 1.3 of the free release, but the 1.4 just came out I think a couple days ago. At least that's when I started reading it, a couple days ago. But yeah, I'm super excited about that game. I definitely, all the source material that the author's pulling from is all of the video games and shit that I'm into, that I played as a kid. So I'm like really, really digging the vibe of the whole system, and I want to try that out, and run a game in it. So yeah, that I don't know what else I do. I just like kind of bum around until people tell me like, hey, you want to try this out? I'm like, yeah, okay.
Pretty much. There's also shoot, I'm blanking on it. There was something else I really wanted to play, and it's escaping my head right now. But Tim also did ask about genre, and I think they've announced this, so I feel comfortable mentioning it. Over on the USP channel, there's a new show coming that I'm going to be part of in the next, I think it's this month actually. I'll have to look at the schedule again. But there's a show, another Mutants and Mastermind show, but it's a magical girls genre. So
that would be great. Yes, I want to do that. That sounds kind of cool.
I'm so goddamn excited because I found Sailor Moon on a streaming service that I have, so I've been watching a bunch of Sailor Moon.
I'm getting ready.
Yes. So I'm very excited for that.
We're gonna throw up them gang signs, dog. Sailor Moon coming at you, like.
Because
that's awesome. Yeah.
My character is basically a mix of the main character from Part 6 of JoJo, obviously, but as a magical girl.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, for sure. I think I would love to play more games that are leaning a little bit more to that like shonen anime funness. That's where like, you know, a big part of like my childhood and culture and like the way like I think about cool action shit and like what I think is awesome. It's like that kind of genre. So yeah, I would like to play something in that realm that kind of like has that vibe. Would be pretty good. Like all the shouting out the attack names and the techniques and the oh my god.
I know I'm gonna be doing that in the game. I don't know if it's gonna be annoying as hell, but I'm doing it anyways.
Nah, dude, that's the whole point. You can't just be a magical girl without yelling out your attack name of like, you know, Sailor Love Blaster 3000 attack.
I have named all my attacks because like they're all different color gems. I've named them all different shades of red, and I have a little bit of alliteration in there. I don't want to say too much about them because we'll talk about on the USP. We'll talk about the show a bit more. So I want to save any more information about it for actually that. But I have done that, and I'm very excited to use them.
Yeah, for sure. And for Tim's last question.
Sorry. I just remembered the name of the game. The Spy Game.
Okay.
I don't know how I forgot that because it's so simple, but The Spy Game. It's a 5e expansion / like reference. Well, like they expanded off of 5e to create a game that's basically super spies, like that James Bond kind of crap. And I've been really wanting to run that. I just haven't found the time, but I've been wanting to do a James Bond kind of game, and that'd be perfect for it. But that's just another thing of like, I need to actually get around to doing it, but I have other stuff I want to do as well.
Yeah. It might just be like prepare a million one-shots in a million different RPG systems and just have it on the back burner ready to go whenever someone's like, I got a free night.
I have in my head like the plot. I would just steal the plot from one of the PS2 James Bond video games, but you just do it as a party instead of one person.
True.
But that was the last one. Okay.
So Tim's last question: any plans for more group RPG streams? Yes.
The answer is yes. I keep wanting to do, like, we keep talking about Lancer. We've talked about Starfinder a bit. I do want to do more. I want to do more things in Foundry specifically because I want to test out the stream settings in Foundry. Especially after the stream on USP, because sometimes the camera would act a bit weird and stuff, and I just want to see if I can make that work. Like, that's just that particular thing, but definitely the answer here is yes.
Yeah. And Tim, maybe you'll be on it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how comfortable you are, and if the answer is yes, then yeah, definitely we would like to have you on.
Yes, that would be
It
fun.
always feels weird it feels weird talking about people on the podcast that we talk to like a lot because it feels like a weird, like we're writing you a message, like it's like, and we're mailing it to you. It's like a weird way of communicating.
Yes, you'll see this in 2 days when the episode actually goes up.
Yeah, right. Like, but that's just kind of fun. I appreciate the community, and I appreciate everyone's support and all the views and the comments and just interaction. And great, and I'm very very happy to continue.
Yeah.
The One with Us podcast.
I'm just like super grateful that people are enjoying this all so much, that they're willing to interact with the channel, they're willing to stop by and listen to our episodes, willing to stop by for the live streams. It's so much fun when people are just like chatting in the stream. When they see me, it always blows my mind that people stick around whenever I stop to like look up how to do something. Like, I was stuck in a dungeon in Skyrim the other day because I didn't see a lever that was supposedly super obvious, and I was just like looking up what I was supposed to do. I don't know why people put up with that, because I did that a lot in Batman. Well, not a lot, I mean, I'm super good at Batman, but I did that a few times in Batman as well. And I'm super glad that people are willing to put up with that. Or that that one stream that went like super long and I was up at like 2 a.m. doing riddles. Oh man. Yeah, no, streaming is a blast on this channel. I'm really happy how it's been going. And just
All right, folks.
everything we've been doing. And yeah, this is a super long episode.
We should probably wrap it up, Calvin.
Yes.
Can't bask in the 100th this too much.
This is gonna take forever to edit, so we should probably wrap everything up. But like, just again, everybody out there listening, thanks a ton for sticking around, for listening to the show, for getting us to. We're closing in on 350 subs. We'll I don't know what we'll do when we get there. But yeah, again, really happy with everything that's going on with the channel, and here's to another 100 episodes, I guess.
I guess if you make it to 200, damn.
Another
Dude.
2 years.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
folks.
Ramon, is there anything else you want to say before we head off?
All of the links to the things that we normally link are in the doobly-doo, the official term. And yeah, check out all those guys. We love them, and we like supporting them and giving all those shout-outs to them. And we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And give them the outro. Give them the thing.
Well, everybody out there listening, all our players, GMs, and everything in between, just remember to keep on winning with dice. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.